I was 25 years old when I tried drugs. I was working as a manager. The tension was high. By evening I was so tired that I couldn't talk. A friend suggested that I try drugs when we went out for a drink after the regular work week. If I hadn't been drinking, I wouldn't have accepted such an offer, but I was assured that I would just relax, that there would be no trace of my fatigue. I gave it a shot, and indeed, there was so much energy that it wasn't until Monday evening that I felt my first fatigue. It was the methamphetamine. Under its influence, I suddenly realized that I could solve problems much faster. Ideas came bright and clear, and I stopped stressing and getting angry at my clients. I felt like I was in control. The state I experienced kept wanting to repeat itself. The drugs made me work twice as hard, and I thought I had a way out. Every time I waited for the proverbial withdrawal, but there was no withdrawal. Since there was no withdrawal, I was not an addict. I controlled the process, and I don't take it all the time. And then I had a breakdown. There was a very important project that we had been working on for a few months. I was supposed to do a presentation, but my nerves were giving out, so I decided to take it. I won't say what happened to me afterwards, but I lost my job. I thought at the time that a great manager like me would be accepted everywhere. But even with the fact that I was fired by mutual agreement of the parties, somehow all the major employers knew about the scandal. And I was not hired anywhere. In general, after a month or so I ran out of all my financial reserves. And methamphetamine is not a cheap drug. I thought I should stop. But maybe some other time? Right now it was hard enough to deprive myself of the last pleasure. Without meth I could no longer see an existence, and when there was no money left at all, this nightmare came to me. First I had a fever, then I started choking. I was sure I was just sick. Then wild vomiting began, and I couldn't get away from the jolt. I somehow crawled to bed after another bout of vomiting, and called a comrade. He brought me a capsule and said that it was withdrawal. The pill made me feel better, but now came the fear that I couldn't get meth anywhere else. I thought this would be the last time, every time. But as soon as the withdrawal started, all I could think about was taking the pain away. In between withdrawals, there was fear. I was afraid of every rustle around the corner, afraid they would come after me, because I started stealing. First wallets at the market, then I broke into the barn, then the apartment. There was nothing left to take out of my house. I tried my first drug in December, and by October of the following year I was almost out on the street. I had help. People like me were quick to find companies where they could get, snort, puff, or inject. The first doses I calculated very clearly. Then I didn't understand what happened. We were injecting. I only remember I almost stopped breathing. I woke up in the clinic, under 4 fluids. Surprisingly, there was no withdrawal, and the first thought that came to mind was that I needed to find a dose. Not so much to get sober, but to get a shot. Because everything was turning over inside. Because it felt so nasty inside that the white walls seemed disgustingly gray. Inside there was hatred for everyone who was around. Yes, I had a therapist working with me. He said something about sobriety. But what the hell was sobriety when my mind was on one thing, where to get it? I quit as soon as I could, and then it was on again. I ended up in detox 3 times and realized this was my chance to continue living the way I was living before. Once again, when I went into rehab, I suddenly, out of the blue, fell in love. That's how it happened. And that was the moment I thought about how to change myself and my life. For 3 months I held on as best I could. Only then did I start communicating with my doctor. The end of this story is this. I've been sober for 2 years, married to the same nurse I met at the center, and now I go to a Narcotics Anonymous group. I'm telling my story so that every addict understands after the first dose you've become an addict, that it's a straight path to death, and nothing of what you've imagined for yourself will happen. There will only be the dirt, the pain, the fear, and the desire to accept. Nothing else.